Hello, today we're looking at this Reddit post, Agent Ideas by Fans GFX on the Valorant subreddit. It's quite a big post, but quite a nice post with like 20 things that they want to changed, or also like some ideas. I say want, they actually had the bomb, they say, I don't necessarily want all of these, just putting it there. So they're just like, these are just ideas, like strictly ideas, not necessarily anything they want, but just like suggestions maybe, or like ideas that could be like improved on, I guess. So the first one is let Killjoy turn a turret similar to Sage's wall. Now that has an angle thing going on. I think this is more quality of life change for the Killjoy turret, rather than actual like for Sage wall. It's a lot different. There's like a lot more things. It actively changes what the wall can do. The Killjoy turret doesn't really change what it can do if it's like a different orientation. So I do think that this is like a more of a quality of life change. Doesn't really change any situations. Second one is let Clove activate their revive whilst looking at the big map. This has actually happened to me where I didn't revive because I looked at the big map. Arguably, I should have been better mechanically there, but I think this is just a quality of life change in the end. So I do think that this could be changed. It could not be changed. It wouldn't really matter too much. Let Viper see her position. Her poison orb, where her poison orb will land on the map, rather than only doing this in. So I think that this is the first one that I think I disagree with. I think that you shouldn't be given preparation for free. I think that you need to be able to go on to YouTube or just find these lineups yourself in some capacity to play the agent and have those lineups available to you. I don't think you should be getting them for free, because this just takes away work from the player. And I do think that taking away work from the player is going to bring up the skill floor of that agent, and therefore it's going to take away skill expression from those players that it would like gloss over, right? Like a Viper that knows the basic lineups and a Viper that doesn't know the basic lineups does have a big difference. And obviously that's not, I'm not sure what elo that would actually be in, but there's going to be a difference there. And you don't want to just like make up that difference for no reason. So I do think that this is not a very good change. So number 4 is fix Wingman's collision detection. I won't read all that, but basically, yeah, the indicator is not the same as how he actually runs. It's the same with Boombot as well. There are times where you would have the indicator going straight forward through a doorway, and it would actually clip the corner of it. It has happened for a while, literally since Boombot, in like beta basically. It's been doing this. So yeah, I do wish they would fix this. It actually has been going on for 2 years now, maybe more, for a long time. Actually, wait, how long has Valorant been out? How old am I? Turn off for Deadlock's sound sensor. Turn off sound for Deadlock's sound sensor. Just make it a visual only for the enemy. So I think the thing is with this one is that if your enemy walks into the sensor, is it necessarily a good sensor? For the most part, like maybe not, because what actually happens with like you need the person to make sound, right? So generally they need to be taking some sort of contact, or they need to be like dashing in or something like that, right? For the sound sensor to go off. Do you want the sound sensors only to be like detectable by those players? So, and obviously if it's detectable by those players, then it probably means they're already either fighting or dashing in or something like that, right? You want them to be active at the same time as the sound sensor is actually visible. So, or like visible is like, yeah, visible and hearable. So to me, I don't think it really makes that much of a difference. Other than I think it would make their lock sound sensors a tiny bit better in certain situations. But I don't think this would ever be actually implemented because of the way that they have changed Cypher, with the Cypher cam making a sound when they can see someone. I don't think they want to give away that like that audible clarity that Deadlock already has. So I don't think they're gonna do that. I don't think it would make much sense for their their vision of the game, like the way they see the game. At least currently, obviously their vision of the game can change. So right now, I don't think this would ever be implemented, and I don't think it really makes that much sense either. So number 6, make Deadlock's ultimate grab a large area and grab sooner. Don't think this needs to be changed. I think Deadlock's ult is actually very scary. I think Deadlock in general can be very scary, and solo queue especially. They can be they can be a force to reckon with. Deadlock's kind of, if you know what you're doing on Deadlock. And I don't think this makes much sense. I think this is definitely Deadlock's one of her stronger abilities. And I do think that because of the way it works, it's very similar to Raze Rocket. Obviously just has a lot like maybe a higher, like a worse high end, but at the same time she's a sentinel, so it makes sense that it has a worse higher end than a duelist does. And I do think this would be fine, but at the same time I don't think it's necessary. Maybe the grab sooner more so than the larger area. I think the larger area doesn't make as much sense, because I do think that there's a level of skill you need to be able to put this in a good position, and I think that can nullify some of that. The grab sooner could be nice, because it could stop some players from like getting the break on the ult sooner, and they can like die because they get put into a bad position. even if they get the thing broken, if that makes sense. So number 7, Jet Smoke goes to 3 seconds, double smoke diffuse. Nope, this cannot come back. Please don't make this come back. They should not be able to double smoke diffuse. And the whole reason why it got nerfed in the first place is because of this. It's because that Jets shouldn't be able to win situations because they have 2 smokes in this situation. It just makes no sense. They shouldn't be able to just like force that as a duelist. As a controller, it's completely fine, but she's not a controller, she's a duelist. So I don't think it makes much sense to give her the double smoke diffuse. It's too broken. Sage heal back to 100 self heal. Okay, so for me, if you've watched any of my other videos before that include Sage, you'll know how I talk about healing and that kind of stuff. For me, I don't think this matters, and I don't think it's really that much of a balance lever for Sage, because she doesn't really have many. For a lot of agents in the game, you kind of have a spectrum of balance where they can kind of be really strong, they can be really weak, and they can kind of be in between. The problem is with Sage, a lot of her abilities don't have that in between. It's either weak or it's really strong. And so it's really hard for Sage to ever find their way into the meta, because they're either going to be super broken and very, very obvious that they're broken, so they would never make it to live patches in that state, or they're going to be super, super weak, which is kind of the way they are now. And it's mainly to do with the choices that surrounding their abilities, and to do with the fact that there's a lot of situational parts surrounding her abilities. Like, for instance, you can't heal someone that's dead. If they get one tapped, you can't heal them. And the same with like the ult as well. Ult has that thing as well, where if they're in a bad position and you can't get to them, you can't ult. You have a strict requirement to your ult. That doesn't necessarily include your game plan either. So even Cypher, for instance, even though he does require a body for his ult, which is still like a price to pay, it's still more in line with the way that you're going to play the round out than the way that Sage wants to play the round out. So Sage really does struggle with balance in general, and I don't think that 100 self heal is really going to bring her back. At the same time, it's just going to make her a bit stronger in solo queue, and I think that it brings her up way too, like the self heal becomes way too strong for the ability itself, and kind of goes past being super weak to super strong instead of being in between. So I don't think Sage really should have this back, but at the same time, I'm okay with it because she's still probably going to be super weak, funnily enough. But the ability itself would be very, very oppressive in certain situations. Okay, so next we'll talk about Cypher's wires. Number 9, can be seen or heard. Pick one, but not both, by enemies sooner, or cages are just open top smokes with no sound. Just nerf the wire, ping the cage, spam meta, or force him to be more active in holding his utility. So his identity is that he doesn't have to be active holding his... Well, hang on. Wait, that sentence makes sense. Or force him to be more active in holding his utility. He is active holding his utility in, like similar to KJ, if he wants it to be lethal. Because he has no lethality in his kit. There's no lethality there. He has to be there for it to be lethal. So that's the reason why he's, in my opinion, fine. Actually, in my opinion, I think he's in a balanced state. The problem is that he's a meta pillar. So what that means is that he's warping the meta around him. So it means that when you don't have the things that are being warped around him on your team, you're going to struggle. So if you don't have a Sova, if you don't have a Raze, if you don't have someone that can shoot nail like a KO, then you're going to struggle because you don't have anything that's warped around him. So the main problem with me, I think that he's actually balanced in the game when one of those agents exists against him. The problem is that you can't go into the game knowing that you're going to be against a Cypher and then pick your agent accordingly. So in my opinion, he will be balanced genuinely, realistically, when we get something like a pick phase or something like that, right? Or like a ban phase, pick phase type stuff like League, right? Like League of Legends. Problem is with that is that we don't have it right now. So realistically, actually looking at the game right now at face value, he is quite strong because he doesn't have like the guarantee that there's no guarantee that you can play into a Cypher and have the things that deal with him. And then that's the main problem right now. I think if anything as well, if once again looking at the game at face value, I think you probably want it to be heard further away than seen, and ideally, yeah. I think actually, sorry, as well. I think the cages are fine, and the cages are fine in their current state. I don't think they need to be changed. I think the cages are one of those abilities that look better when the rest of the kit's better. So when the kit looks bad, the cages will also look bad. So yeah, I think the cages are fine right now. To be honest. So next number 10, we got Chamber, can have his second trip back, maybe reduce its field of view, maybe, or possibly the distance he has to be active for it to stay active. Just allowing my man's back into the Sentinel conversation without being like he was when meta. So yeah, that's the problem, is that he's probably, if he gets buffed like that, he probably will be back into meta. The reason why he was meta a long time ago is because of how broken his rendezvous was. So basically he had a reskin jet dash, and he still does have that, by the way. He still does have one of the strongest abilities in the game, and as a result, I think he is still one of the best agents in the game. He just does not get that reputation anymore, because he does, like, the thing is that he can still take that free fight. It's just that he doesn't, like, you have to be a lot smarter about it, which is the problem. A lot of people aren't smart about it, so that's the reason why he might suck at face value. And for the actual suggestion here for the second trip back, one of the reasons why he was also played is because he could fill 2 roles. He could play the duelist role and play the sentinel role, and this definitely gives him a big push in the sentinel role direction, which is probably for the best. But at the same time, it does mean that if there's a map like, for instance, Icebox, where duelists don't have the best of aggressive pathing and you don't need to take the site, he is going to be played over those duelists 100%, because he just has more utility than them. So he will be played over, like, if this change. To be honest, I'm actually surprised that people are playing Jet over Chamber on the current Icebox. I think it's actually quite crazy, because I think that he makes way more sense, because you don't need the pathing that the Jets give you. You just don't need that pathing. It may be a bit more, it's a bit more valuable on A, to be fair, to have that pathing sometimes, to have that person that can go forward and do those types of things. It is quite valuable, but I do think that Chamber is really, really strong basically everywhere else on that map. So yeah, would be nice. Every other situation on A as well, really. He's probably stronger than Duelist. So number 11, make Neon's ult to do significantly less body damage. Keep the head the same. This ult is basically GG go next range in lower elos, but not so much at high. Make the skill gap here more drastic, so Neons with good movement will still get those crazy kills, but make it more manageable for people to kill her and slash tracker. I don't know. I think Neon's in a pretty balanced, fine state. I think that it would be nice to do less body damage and keep the head the same, if not increase the head damage. But yeah, it would be nice maybe just to make it a bit more skills to play Neon. But even then, I don't think it's really that massive of a deal, especially because the way that Neon isn't really that meta anyway, and they're very much an agent that needs to be set up for their success. So yeah, I don't know. I think I would just leave Neon the same if I were in Riot's shoes. Number 12, Gekko's util to detect enemies faster in scramble panic situations. Not so much as a panic option, more so if someone is close right after Wingman or Dizzy comes out, then it will activate a lot sooner. Yeah, I don't think Gekko needs any more buffs. I think Gekko is in a very strong state, and I think that making his util more brain dead would not be a good idea. His util as it is already really brain dead. It's very much just throw it forward and see who it hits, what it hits, and kill the thing it hits. Like it's not exactly the most thoughtful utility, and on top of that, he can spam it throughout the round. So to me, I don't think I would change this. I wouldn't give him more opportunity to be more brain dead, basically. Okay, so number 13, Kedger turret and alarm bot activate sooner after placement. So I do think that this would encroach a bit more onto like the initiator role. I don't think it makes much sense to give this type, to give fast clear to sentinels, with the way that they want to play. Like their idea of playing is to be very passive information gain, or to hold down a site or something, and both of which don't really care about the placement time. The placement time would help you in bad situations, but the thing is that you need to be put into bad situations, because how is the enemy team going to win if you're not put into bad situations? So, and you're not meant to be cut out to do this type of job, so it makes sense that you don't have this soon after activating really, really fast after placement. Number 14, Reyna I tanks more damage, get another after 2 to 3 kills. Already a demon in ranked, more for pro play to maybe give him more reason to use her. So I don't think Reyna is that much of a demon in ranked. They're a demon when the player playing them is better than the person in their ranked games. Mechanically, definitely, 100%. Reyna actually isn't that good if your equal skill. Not very good at all. Well, in fact, I would say she's one of the worst agents to play if you're equal skill in ranked with the people in your elo. It's why a lot of people probably get hard stuck when they spam Reyna. So going actually to these changes, Reyna takes more damage. I actually don't mind that. I think it's completely fine. The problem is with that though is that it might become a really oppressive against ecos or like on pistol, that kind of stuff. It might be really, really difficult to deal with Reyna. And to get an eye every 2 or 3 kills, it's not the signature ability, so it would kind of go against the game. But in some ways as well, I mean, they've already changed Sky to go against that mechanic in the game too, so maybe. But I don't think Reyna really needs that many more changes. I just think they're meant to be a ranked agent. I don't think like not every agent needs to fit into everything. They don't need to be a meta staple at some point. And I'll talk about this, I think, as well in the future. Probably in the future of this video, looking at one of the points. So number 15, ISO wall becomes as wide as harbor wall. Stop when we want it to move. So basically, we want to make it better than better than harbor wall. Basically, no, I don't think this makes much sense. I think stopping when moving, maybe stop it when we want it to. No, that makes sense. But I don't think we should be wide as harbor wall. I think it should be like a very personal wall. It makes sense for a duelist to have something personal, much like jet smokes being quite personal as well. I think having like a personal harbor wall that doesn't get spammed through, it's completely fine for harbor. Sorry, for ISO. So yeah, I do think that he can stop it when moving would be a fine change. 16, let us have, okay, never mind, I'm not talking about that stuff, that's fine. Number 17, Sky flashes the same, but now you can get another 2 for every 2 kills. So for me, I don't think this makes much sense. Sky is not a duelist. And also, Sky isn't really always incentivized to fight. They're an initiator. Sometimes it's best for them to be supporting their team, especially if you look at the way that Sky's played in VCT. They play a very supportive role. It wouldn't necessarily change Sky a whole lot. It might change, like it would give her an opportunity to have a 3rd flash in a round if they particularly pop off or something, or like in a clutch, for instance, or something like that. Maybe. But even then, I don't think that is necessarily that good. I mean, it's definitely something to think about though. I do quite like it in some ways. Like it gives her a way to be stronger in rounds that is based in the player's skill. But at the same time, they aren't necessarily incentivized to play that way. So it's quite a weird one. Like I think if they could find a way for the player to be skill, like to have the skill expression and be incentivized to play that way, then I think that would be good. And I think in solo queue, actually, this does make perfect sense. I think it's fine because in solo queue, you are going to be more aggressive version of Sky. But I think in VCT, this wouldn't change much. So number 18, give Phoenix another hot hand so he can molly another area or heal himself some more. So for me, I don't think Phoenix needs to be changed. He's one of those agents that is just good no matter what, basically. He's basically good in most situations. He even playable on maps like Breeze, which is crazy. He basically always retains a positive win rate. Playable in VCT in like pro play in like certain situations and with certain comps. So for me, I think Phoenix is one of those agents that like the game needs those types of agents where they aren't going to be meta defining and meta warping, but they're going to give a new player a way to play, or they're going to give some nuance to pro. And I think Phoenix is that agent, and I think Phoenix is probably one of the best agents in the game in terms of like looking at what balance, like good balancing can do, because I think Phoenix is really a well-balanced agent. Okay, so number 19, only keep the VCT map pool in competitive and Premier, let people play and learn other maps in all other game modes. So for me, so one thing that's guaranteed actually is the VCT, competitive and Premier pool need to be exactly the same. They need to be the same because you don't want to be splitting up the VCT and the player base, because what that does is it means that the player base can't see when they can't watch the games of VCT and then go copy that in their own games. That is one of the main draw points to watching pro in the first place. For a lot of players is that they want to see the best players play so they can copy it and do it in their games. And even if it's not the main reason why they play, a lot of people do it anyway. It needs to be in both. Same with agents as well. Agents can't have different balance points in VCT compared to like competitive and Premier, because people want to play the same agents exactly how the pro played them, basically. So that's the reason why that can't change. So something that I'm more okay with though is let people learn other maps in other game modes. Like for instance, unrated, maybe it's cool to have all the maps available. I don't really know why they don't do this. There might be a technical reason that I'm not aware of, or that most people aren't aware of, or there might be something else, for another reason for it. But I can't see a reason for it, so I would say it's fine. One thing as well that would be interesting would be having a map queue, like in CSGO or CS2, where you can like queue a specific map. Having like an actual map queue would be interesting and unrated. But it does mean that some of the less popular maps will get massive queue times. and be less played overall. And lastly, we've got a replay system. So I think a replay system obviously would be great. It would improve the general skill of the player base. Anyone that uses the replay system to improve would get better 100%, I think. Well, I mean, it wouldn't, but like, yeah, they would get better pretty quickly, I think. If they actually are trying to improve, they would be able to see enemy's perspective as well, would be really, really useful. And just in general as well, it would definitely up the value of Valorant overall. Like things like edits, like editing the game, like edits for content and that kind of stuff would also be really good. So for me as well as a coach, helping people improve, that would be amazing tool to have. So I obviously am really for it. I'm guessing the reason why it's delayed, and this could be saying like sounds like I'm like going to glaze right here, but I think the reason why it's probably not here is because I can't think of a replay system in an FPS that is actually good. I think even like CS has a bad replay system. Like Smokes, like tons of bugs, basically bugs abound, and even then, the same as bugs existed in CS:GO, and it looks like either Valve gave up on wanting the replay system to be good, or it's really hard to get an FPS replay system that's actually good. And I can't think of a good one. I don't think there even is a good one. So I guess that Riot are having problems with that. They're having problems getting it to the standards they want. Is what I'd guess. But even then, like I just hope that they just give us like a bare bones replay system that works enough. Like it would be nice to be fair, but it is what it is. Okay, so I have my own list, but it's pretty big. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about 3 of them. The first one is actually like my number 1, which is replay system, which I've already talked about, so I won't talk about it again. But essentially, I want a replay system. The second one is Sage rework or reevaluation of healing. So it's debatable whether healing really fits into this game. I think it's very difficult to balance it in a way where it's balanced, where it's not too strong, it's not too weak. And Sage is kind of unfortunately a victim of that, where they're either really strong or they're really weak. And just in general, that's kind of how the kit is. Even the wall is either going to be really strong or really weak. It's very hard to balance Sage's kit to a point where they're actually playable and not broken. So I do think that needs to be something they really look into. Another thing as well, so my last one is something new that would challenge dive, because dive has been the meta since chamber, and actually I think the dive meta is really fun. But the problem is with it is that it's becoming like the only thing possible to play, and new agents get brought out that like are basically compared to dive agents, and they can't play. They're just not very good. So I would like to see something new that can challenge dive. Unfortunately, it seems like dive might have to be nerfed. I don't really want it to be nerfed because it's a really fun way to play Valorant. The problem is it really going to carry on that we have new agent after new agent, and they just can't challenge the meta? So something needs to be looked at with the meta about challenging the dive. Okay, so I think that's it. So if there's any opinions you have, then leave them down in the comments. If you like this video, then make sure you subscribe to see more, and I'll see you in my next one.